Welcome, everybody. I'm Marc David, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. We're back in the Psychology of Eating podcast, and I am with Jen today. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're doing this. And the idea is we're going to spend some time together. This is your chance to be in a session with me and you. And if you could wave your magic wand and get whatever you wanted with food, body, health, what would that be for you?
The weight melting off, in addition to all the good qualities of life, like great energy and like the whole thing, but without having to think about it.
Yeah, I love it. So somehow,
like effortlessly.
Yes. So without effort or without a lot of effort, you lose some weight and you get some other health benefits. What other health benefits specifically?
Energy is a big one for me. And I've dealt with a lot of anxiety. And so that being more stable, I guess, if that makes sense. And energy is a big one, and feeling light, like that's a big one for me. Because I've realized the way I feel about things also affects how I feel about my body.
Isn't that interesting how that happens?
Yeah.
So health-wise, do you have any pre-existing challenges?
Oh, many. Yeah. So I've dealt with Hashimoto's for maybe 10 years now. And I have had a lot of adrenal issues, and that's mostly in check, or whatever you'd say now. It hasn't been like the exhaustion that I used to have when the adrenal fatigue was really bad. And then also a lot of gut issues. So I've been dealing with like parasites that I'll get one and then I get treatment for it. It's like supplements and stuff, and it's better for a while. And then I tend to get another one or however that works with parasites.
Got it. And are you working with any kind of doctor or health professional for the Hashimoto's and gut issues?
Yeah. I see a naturopath for, for everything, but the gut issues, I've chosen not to do the medical route at this point. And I see a standard nutrition therapist. So she deals with healing with whole food supplements. I don't know if you've heard of standard nutrition, but
yes, I have.
Yeah.
So how long have you been wanting to lose weight?
Since I started to weigh myself as a teenager.
Got it. So how many years would you say that's been roughly?
I think it was about 12. And I was up and down. And then right before hearing about the Institute for Psychology of Eating, I actually had lost all of the weight. Like I was probably too thin for me with Jenny Craig, but then I gained it back. So it's been, so I'm 40 now. So that would be 28 years.
Yes. And when were you diagnosed with Hashimoto's?
It was roughly 10 years ago. I think it was 2013. So 9 years ago.
And where would you say you're at on your Hashimoto's journey, or what would your doctor say?
The doctor has recently, in the last year, said that my numbers finally, after years and years, look good. And I take, you didn't ask this, but I'm supplying this information. Like that's been with thyroid, like it's from a pharmacy, but natural thyroid.
Yes, yes, yes. So has that helped your energy?
Thinking, because circumstances change all the time in my life, but which affects my energy. But I think it's affected my energy. The weight stays the same.
Mm-hmm. And are you a mom?
Yes.
How many kids?
4 kids.
How old?
A 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 11-year-old.
Okay. That makes me just a little tired just hearing that. That's like you're like the CEO of a little company there.
Yeah.
Of teens.
Yeah.
So when you lost the weight with Jenny Craig and then it came back, what did you think you did such that the weight came off? Like what do you think helped the weight come off at that point?
That I was, well, number one, that I thought that losing the weight would make me happy. Probably number 2 was that I met with somebody every single week and was accountable for what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. So when your weight came back on, if you can guesstimate why you think it came back on, was it because you were no longer accountable?
It's because I was not being accountable to other people. And I was learning to be accountable to myself.
Mm-hmm. So do you think the weight comes on because of how much you eat?
No, because I've maintained the same weight for a few years now. But I gained a lot of weight in the time period in which I stopped dieting. So like it very easily just like I stopped weighing myself and stopped dieting and just was learning to listen to my body. And I don't remember like weighing myself and be like, wow, I'm really gaining weight. I was not. I was working on not paying attention to that, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because when I lost the weight, it was like it was weight hate. It was very like negative. It wasn't positive.
Yeah. Weight hate can really work. Short term anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I find hate long term or midterm not so good for anything, really. So when you sort of weren't paying attention to the weight, does that mean for you weren't paying attention to what you were eating?
I was thinking about that as I was saying it. I would say paying less attention to what I was eating, but intentionally, because I used to literally spend my entire day thinking about what I was or wasn't eating.
Mm-hmm. So correct me if you have a different opinion. It sounds like you're trying to find a middle ground between the desire to lose weight and what one needs to do for that, and not being in the hate zone or the constantly looking at myself, monitoring myself, weighing myself, paying attention to every single thing I eat in some specific way. Sounds like you're trying to find a little bit of a middle ground between an awareness and not fighting and going against yourself. Does that sound true for you?
Yeah, that sounds really accurate, actually.
Yeah. So what would stop you from finding that middle ground? What would get in the way of that?
Um, I'm not totally sure.
Okay, that's fair. Let me make some suggestions. What would stop you? And I'm not saying these are accurate. I'm just looking at possibilities that I've seen happen. One thing that stops us is it's just new. You haven't necessarily done it before, so you kind of don't know what to do. Like, wait a second, what does middle ground look like? How do I intend to lose weight, but not be obsessive about it, or not take the hating myself road, and not taking the have to worry about everything I eat road? It's just, you haven't done that before. So it's just new.
Yeah.
That's one thing that could stop a person. I think another thing that could stop a person is, how much of a rebel are you?
It's funny that you ask, because that was like gonna be my response possibly a few minutes ago. But I wasn't sure how to explain it. So that's probably I'm a rebel. I don't want to be told what to do, and a diet tells you what to do.
Exactly. You strike me as, when you were a teenager, you were probably a good girl and a bad girl both at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You did the bad things, whatever those are, or you were a rule breaker or a rebel, but you kind of did it maybe not so outwardly. I'm just taking a guess. Is that true for you?
Yeah, I wanted to go against what I was told, but I didn't necessarily do that.
Mm-hmm. See, it's interesting because that rebel in us, I'm just, in this moment, it's just kind of popping off the screen for me, for you. When I asked you the question, how much of a rebel are you? Your face lit up. You had a big smile. You didn't have a mean look on your face, like, how dare I ask you that question? The part of us that goes, I don't want anybody telling me what to do. That's a great part of us, because it's the rebel in you and me that does go against the old ways that don't work, that goes against anything that doesn't work. It's the rebel in us that, all the greats in human history who have helped change the course of human history for the better, they were rebels. They stood up for something. They were willing to get killed or shot or hunted down. So the rebel the rebel in the world and the rebel in us is the part of us that's authentic, that's radical, that listens to our own inner voice, and not going to do stupid nonsense if somebody's telling us to do stupid nonsense. Now, here's the challenge. The rebel usually shows up when we're young. That's when the rebel first is born in us. Really, really comes out in the kind of like the teenage years, especially gets stronger when you go through puberty, 12, which is when you started dieting or started noticing your body and wanting to change it. But the rebel gets strengthened in our teens because teens are rebellious. And the interesting thing about that is that that's when the rebel is really born. But as teens, we're not very wise. And you could be a rebel without a cause. You could rebel against things that doesn't really get you anywhere. Just because you're being a rebel and you're trying on your rebel suit and your rebel clothes and your, hot rebel shoes. And we often, I don't know, the rebel can just rebel against things that don't move the action for us. So the rebel in us wants to be more mature, especially if you are 30, 40, 50 and over. Even in the 20s, it's time to kind of harness the rebel. So I'm going to guess for you that it would be a really great exploration to start to notice the part of you that you're going to set the rules. Okay, we're going to Jenny Craig. You'll do it. It'll last a certain amount of time. It'll give you a certain amount of success. But in a weird way, you have to hate your body on that journey. And at some point, you just want to rebel against that. Not only do you want to rebel against the dietary rules, you want to rebel against hating yourself, which is a good thing to rebel against. So I'm thinking that part of the way that you find the balance between I wish to lose weight, the balance between that wish, that desire, and have to push, force, pay attention to every little thing, hate myself. There's a middle ground in there. And it's the middle ground of an adult, the queen in you, the mature mother in you. Sometimes you got to set rules with your kids. You got to set guidelines. You're not being mean. You just set guidelines for them. Here's the rules. Here's what we do. And we do these things for a good reason. Teenager can't always understand that. An adult can. Oh, we do these things for a good reason. There's a part of you that's still, I think, a teenage rebel.
Yeah, I was actually making sure you were done, but I have something to share if you're ready.
Please, yes.
So all this resonates very much as you see my head nod, and it's like so on point. And the interesting thing is that I would say that I've been working very hard on this healing thing. And so I've been noticing, like, in all reality, like there's a lot of healing that's been done so that really food is uncomplicated at this point until a certain point. And so I do actually kind of intuitively, but have some guidelines, and I pretty much do follow them throughout the day. But if I'm really honest, it's almost every day there reaches a certain point, and it's not always the exact same time of day, but that it's almost like no rules make sense, guidelines make sense to set because I don't even remember them. Maybe the body keeps the score kind of thing or something. There just reaches a point that it's if I set rules, that I'm for sure breaking them. And it's not that I'm agreeing to that. It's just, yeah. And so I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll take your suggestions on that.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense what you're saying. You have some rules and guidelines that you willingly follow. And then there comes a point during the day where, whoop, gone.
Yeah. And I've worked to just forgive myself for that. Just allow that to be, because nothing I've done so far has actually helped it. It's just made it worse.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yes. So I love that. I love that your first movement is awareness. You notice, oh, I do this. I have these really good guidelines that I follow that I think are going to work for me around food, around my health, around my weight. And then I notice that guideline at some point during the day is automatically just thrown out the window. That program is temporarily erased. So yeah, self-attacking yourself for that, That doesn't help. That doesn't work. Forgiving yourself, step number one. Step number two, I think, is starting to make an adjustment. You're aware that you've done it. You've forgiven yourself for doing it. A plus. The next step is to slowly, over time, make adjustments that help you get where you want to go. The reason I think that happens for you is because it's the rebel that kind of wakes up and goes, nah. And it's automatic and it's unconscious and it's repetitive. You repeat that many days and it's automatic, unconscious, meaning it just, that habit of forgetting your rules does itself. So if it's automatic and unconscious, the only way to begin to change it is to introduce consciousness. Like, oh, I do this. Oh, it's understandable why I do this because I still got this rebel in me. And I'm always looking at our eating challenges as our opportunity to grow. So your eating challenge is being a teacher for you, is being a great teacher for you. So as we're talking, I'm asking myself, how is this eating challenge for you, for Jen, being a great teacher? And it's asking you to be conscious in a place where you normally can go to sleep. It's asking you to stay awake in a place where you just want to go to sleep. We don't have to spend time really. Well, why do you go to sleep in that place? How come? What is it about you or life that makes you want to go to sleep in that place? Doesn't matter. I don't think it matters that much, at least not for you. What matters is you're aware that it happens. What matters is you don't need to self-attack yourself, and you realize that. And then what matters is what adjustment can I make that will help me move in the direction called I stay awake in the moment when I normally go to sleep. There's a moment when you go to sleep and the rules get thrown out the window. That's the moment we want to try to catch. Have you ever noticed that you might have caught yourself in that moment and changed it? Does that ever happen?
Yeah. And the thing is, I've like been so careful to not self-attack, whatever you want to say, is that I've like chosen to not make the food the problem. And so there's lots of circumstances where that happens. I just call them my triggers, but where people, it's usually around relationships, whether it be friends, hubby, kids, whatever, but where I feel, however, it makes me feel defensive. And so I'm learning to not have the outward defense, like not like need to explain myself.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's the like inside of me where I feel misunderstood and I don't know how to make that voice stop.
Yes. So you feel misunderstood by people around you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or by anyone, but it's like more important to me, the people that I've made priority, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, thanks for being so vulnerable about that, because I really think that this might be ground zero for you in a way where when you're not feeling seen or heard or loved or understood, I'm going to kind of wrap that all into the same package. It's all very close. You don't see me, you don't understand me, and you don't get me, and therefore on some level you don't love me, you don't respect me. And so therefore I can do behaviors that don't respect me. It's easier for me to, in a weird way, kind of punish myself or not understand myself in a moment when I'm feeling misunderstood by others. It's easy in that moment. Well, if everybody else is piling on me, a part of me is going to pile on me. We'll often reproduce in ourselves the offense that's happening on the outside, or that happened way back when on the outside. Meaning, for a lot of us, what probably happened is at some point for you in your life as a child, you weren't seen, you weren't understood. And that hurts. Especially when you're a kid, that hurts. Especially when you're an adult, that hurts. When you're not seen, understood by the people that you love and that you give to. When that happens as a child, we're going to compensate. What do I got to do to compensate? Food's usually a good way to compensate. So when you're not feeling understood, there's a part of you that wants to go back to the childhood strategy of how did I make myself feel better? Chances are you ate this or that or the other thing. How is this conversation going for you so far?
This is like 100% on point.
Yeah. So part of your task, I think, and it sounds like you know this, is on the one hand, learning how to, in a strange way, we're not always going to be understood. It just might be that there's certain places with your kids, with your partner, with other significant people in your life, this is not going to get you.
Yeah, and the ironic thing is, in my conscious brain, I actually realize it and I don't necessarily even think that I need them to, but there's just that little wounded child that pops up when it does.
Yes. And that wounded child has every right to pop up because as adults, we're still the same. We want to be understood. I'm with you. I want to be understood by the people that love me. When the people that I love and they say they love me, when they're not understanding me, that hurts. And if I can't work it out with them and be understood somehow, I'm going to just go compensate, drink, smoke, surf the web, do stupid things, eat too much. Or I'm going to have to roll up my sleeves a little bit more and ask some questions of myself. Can I find a place in this relationship where, okay, I'm just not understood in a certain way. And it hurts. That doesn't necessarily make the hurt go away. It changes the flavor of it, I think.
Like, do you mean being like acknowledging it, like instead of trying to be better than that or like be okay anyways? Is that what you mean?
A part of it is, first just acknowledge, okay, this is happening. I'm not being understood. And while I'm not being understood, I need to self-soothe in a way that really works for me. I think there's a part of you that maybe needs a different self-soothing strategy or strategies. And self-soothing means can't convince them in the moment to understand me. What do I do in my inner world? What do I do with myself that helps me care for myself, nourish myself, soothe myself in the moment or in the moments to follow. What would that look like for you if you were just going to say, okay, this hurts. I'm not going to change this in the moment right now. This really hurts. How do I be with this hurt in a way that I don't multiply the hurt?
I am not 100% certain because it's funny, like I've worked on this, like, a list of what does Jen enjoy, like that kind of thing. And I've come up with like plenty of things that when not triggered, I do enjoy. But when that happens so far, no, I think I've spent so long avoiding it that it's a different concept to be like, okay, like when this happens, I do this and it actually does help me, because what I have found so far is like, if I do remember to and do tapping, that does help. But when you're triggered, you have to remind yourself that it's going to help. And that's why you should do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Tapping is such a great tool, or it can be for a lot of people. I like it as a tool for you because it's very actionable. It's technically easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's between you and you. And we talked about the moment when I go unconscious, I throw out the rules. So part of it is the way we heal. One of the ways we heal a wound from the past. So the wound from the past is I wasn't understood. And when I'm not understood, I can self-attack, I can eat, I can go into all these places that don't feel so good. So the healing is I stay awake in that place where it hurts. Sometimes it might actually mean really feeling the hurt. It might mean going in your bedroom and shutting the door and feeling the hurt and being a really good parent to yourself, being a really good mother to yourself. Like if you were a little girl in that moment and you were the mother of that little girl and you're a great mother, what would you do with her? Tapping is one thing. But it's you being able to hold that part of you that's vulnerable, misunderstood, got hurt, and soothe yourself in a way that is meaningful. So in a way, you're giving yourself the thing that other people are not giving you. I'm not being understood. You're not being sensitive to me. You're not getting me. So that's what's happening for you with the people on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
The remedy is you understand yourself. You get yourself. You see yourself. And you give yourself what you need. Meaning you understand yourself. I'm hurt. I was misunderstood. I'm going into that old wounded place, which is completely understandable. It's a place where I tend to go to sleep and let go of food rules. But now I'm going to self-soothe in a way that works. I'm going to tap. I'm going to shut out the outside world. I'm going to speak kindly to myself. I'm going to bring down my anxiety and upset temperature. Part of long-term anxiety, a big piece of it is We literally, I mean, forgive me if this sounds so obvious, but we're learning as human beings how to regulate our emotions. We're learning as human beings how to soothe ourselves when we are feeling unsafe. When you're a child, you expect the adults around you to fulfill that for you. It's a reasonable expectation. The adults, they're bigger, they're older, they're smarter. They should understand me, they should get me, they should see me. But if they didn't, and we carry that boo-boo into our adult years, then at some point as you and I become smarter and wiser, oh, yeah, I can go to that place. I can go to that upset place. And it takes work to catch ourselves. And it takes work to, again, do the thing that others are not doing for you, which is giving you love and understanding and the right kind of attention. How's this landing for you?
Oh, it's like 100% on point. Yeah.
It's not easy work.
No, because my instinct to go to myself for what I need. I guess like intuitively, I like for a long time, I hoped other people would understand me. But let's be honest, I'm super sensitive, like really highly sensitive, empath, like, so it's kind of uncommon for people to actually, there's many people who are not as sensitive as me. So how could they understand me?
Exactly. So,
point being, it's not changing, like most likely.
yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. And being super sensitive has its beauty to it, it has its superpower to it. Being super sensitive means you're aware. It means you're picking up on things. It means you feel things. It means you feel things that others aren't feeling. You see things that others aren't seeing. It means you're registering things that tend to go over a lot of people's heads. And it is a certain kind of intelligence to be sensitive. When it becomes hypersensitivity and it dysregulates us, then it becomes more problematic. So it's learning how to be a sensitive person or a highly sensitive person in a way that works for you, in a way that empowers you. And it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy ride. But what it means is you've owned, I'm a sensitive person, and you let go of others have to soothe me. Others have to understand me. I mean, it'd be nice if they do. But first things first, you have to understand you. You have to know how to soothe you. So age 40 is a perfect time to begin to do that. It really is. A man and a woman, something's born at age 40 in us. The adult clearly comes out in us, the adult archetype. The inner voice comes out like never before when we hit 40. Your inner self. The part of you that can start to claim who you are in a good way. Yeah, this is me. I'm sensitive. This is me. I want to be understood. I want to be seen. And if you're not going to do it and you're not going to understand me and see me, I'm going to do it. If you're not going to take care of me, I'm going to do it. You couldn't say that to yourself as a 12-year-old. Wouldn't make sense. but you can definitely say that to yourself as a 40-year-old.
So I guess the question for me when that, because I'm a thinker,
Yes.
and I guess the question that's helpful for me is anytime I feel triggered, because let's be honest, it's always in it's pretty much always in relationship that wound happens. I guess that anytime I think why are they saying or doing this, or I wish they would, it's like that voice, then it should I can flip it to how can I do that for myself?
Exactly. Don't make it about the other person. Don't ask, why do they do this or why don't they understand me? Make the statement to yourself, oh, they're doing this. They don't get me. They don't understand me. If they did get me, if they did truly understand me, if they did truly have the maturity, it's probably not the love that's absent. It's just the maturity and the wisdom. If they had the maturity and the wisdom to understand you, they would, but they don't. So it's kind of understandable why they don't understand you. They can't, at least not in this moment or not at this time. So there's your answer. They just don't get it. So now you've got the power because you're not relying on an 11-year-old, a 15, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old. You're not relying on anybody. You're not relying on your partner to make it better because that hasn't worked. So now you rely on you once again to self-soothe, to hold yourself, to understand yourself. So in the moment, the question becomes, oh, they're doing this again. Got it. Predictable. I'm triggered. How do I take care of myself right now? Where it's about me and me.
It sounds really simple, huh?
It's simple. It really is. It's not easy. It's not easy to do, but it's simple in concept. We often look for the complex answers, but that's the simple practice that will help lead you to freedom. Because that kid in you is looking for understanding and approval from the people out there, and it's not forthcoming. It's not happening. So to me, that's life just telling you this is one of your soul lessons. This is one of the lessons in life you particularly came here to learn. To resource yourself, to find your grounding, your inner core, to find yourself in the kind of chaos around you, in the misunderstanding of you that can happen around you.
Yeah.
Think of it as a new part of your journey. Like this is just you're being born into a new phase of you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how it's kind of ironic how long it takes to learn something, but I mean the amount of moments that I have, or hours, days that I've spent trying to explain something that was right for me, doesn't need to be right for anybody else, but to so many people, but I'm thinking mostly of even my kids. It just goes on and on and on. It never stops until I calm whatever is inside of me that is triggered because I'm they respond to my energy more than my words. But the point being that it just is like an interesting thought. Like when you talked about the chaos around you, to be honest, there's not really chaos if mom just stops talking, if no one's really listening. Like it's kind of simple. Like only talk if someone's going to listen to you or wants, like, is even interested in why you said what you said. Right. But sometimes it takes a little bit to learn stuff.
Yes.
So anyway.
Again, I'm going to say it's you learning. Interestingly enough, it's you learning how to really listen to you for what you need. And I have a feeling that as you do that more and more for you, it's going to be reflected to you more and more in the people in your environment.
I've seen that to some extent. And I think that's, so far it hasn't been solid. Sometimes it's that way and other times not so much. Yes. But I've seen this to be true.
I think we've done some good work today.
I think so too. Thank you.
I appreciate you being really, really willing, and I appreciate you being open and just being you and being the sensitive you and being the real you. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful part of you. And that's really for you to embrace more and more and to love that part of you, like really love that part of you more and more. That, I'm exquisitely sensitive and I'm not always easily understood, but I can still give that gift to me of listening to me, understanding me. Good work, Jen.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Take care, my friends. More to come.
Hey friends, we're so happy that you've joined us for another episode of The Psychology of Eating with Marc David. Are you loving these episodes? Then simply subscribe and you'll never miss an episode again. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a comment below so we can hear more about your own journey with food and body. And if you're curious about what we offer at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, including our internationally acclaimed coach certification training that's rooted in dynamic eating psychology and mind-body nutrition, please head on over to our website, psychologyofeating.com. Until next time, take care, and remember, having the body you want starts with loving the body you have.